Well, don't hold it too long. Hello, everybody. I am back here for another movie review, and this time I'm going to, since I have gone through with Cliffhanger and Everest, I decided to go back and try to find another movie about survival in the mountains. And I decided to pick up and review Vertical Limit. Vertical Limit is a action adventure disaster survival film that came out back in 2000. It was directed by Martin Campbell, probably best known for making films like GoldenEye, Mask of Zorro, The Legend of Zorro, and the ill-fated Green Lantern from 2011, unfortunately. Who knows, I'll get into that one at some point. Chris O'Donnell, oh, he actually did, yeah, this came out after Batman and Robin, so he managed to find some work after Batman and Robin, surprisingly. Chris O'Donnell and Robin Tunney both play siblings who are kind of estranged from each other after a mountain climbing incident that claimed the life of their father. Basically, some mountain climber wannabes managed to swing and smack their rope out of the way. So basically, they were holding on, and he was carrying too much weight, and he told his son basically to cut the rope to let him go. So both the son and daughter survived, but she blames him for the death of their father, since he was the one that cut the rope, but he had no choice. So now he's a retired mountain climber and she's an expert climber, and she's planning to take a team of Bill Paxton is basically a rich billionaire who wishes to scale K2, which is the world's second highest mountain after Everest, but also I heard is probably more treacherous to climb than Mount Everest herself. But unfortunately, disaster strikes when a snowstorm basically causes a massive avalanche that traps the team up there on the mountain, and the son is now basically forced to, he now wants to lead a rescue mission to save them. So they end up carrying up, these like nitroglycerin tanks, which are basically, they're trying to blow through the snow to rescue them. But unfortunately, again, while they're trying to rescue the other team, they get struck with disaster of their own. So basically, this movie literally becomes a treacherous battle for survival and a one heck of a treacherous rescue mission. This movie is basically almost like a sister film compared to Cliffhanger, because the funny thing is both movies open with a tragic incident where a person is ultimately lost, a life is lost in an actual mountain climbing incident. Where in Cliffhanger we open up with the tightrope scene, and in Vertical Limit we actually open with a situation not somewhat similar to the opening in Cliffhanger almost. So basically, we got estranged family members, basically blaming, the other for what happened. Whereas Cliffhanger, Stallone's kind of, so guilt-ridden he can't get over it. But in Vertical Limit, Chris O'Donnell's character is kind of trying to move on, but Robin Tunney unfortunately can't. But it's kind of hard for him because he retired from mountain climbing. And apparently Scott Glenn's character, he's sort of like a mountain man himself who has a bit of history with Bill Paxton's character, which kind of leads to some explosive results near the end of the film. So, like I said, I don't want to get too far into the movie, too far without spoiling anything, for anybody that hasn't seen the movie yet. This movie is not like Everest. Everest, like I said, is more meant for an emotional punch, while Vertical Limit focuses more on the action. And of course, the story is not exactly the best when it comes to this movie, so this is one of those films where you just want to get to the action and see what happens. And although the film, once again, does have beautiful imagery, the cinematography is beautiful, the visual effects do play their part to a certain point. They're not the best, but when they do come on, I mean, they like I said, they have a decent punch to them, but this is one movie where, the story and the acting, only work to a certain point. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm saying that, this is one movie where, you really just don't seem to care much about the story. But still, for some of the characters, you do care about them. At least for Chris O'Donnell and Robin Tunney, you do tend to care about them because, of what they've gone through. Bill Paxton tries to play sort of like, he's the rich billionaire eccentric guy who will do whatever it takes to get up K2, no matter what, adversary gets in his way, even if it's a snowstorm. It's as if he doesn't seem to care. But in the end, though, once the survival instincts kick in, it kind of when you get into a survival like situation where death is literally on the line, that's when the worst of human beings tends to come out, or the best tends to come out. You never know. That's the case in almost every disaster film. We get a character that, is so, you see like he's a nice guy at first, but then, once disaster strikes and the survival instincts kick in, then chances are he could stay a good person, or he might just turn into a self-righteous douchebag. That's the case in almost every disaster film, and Vertical Limit is kind of like that almost. But either way, this is actually an entertaining film, and it has plenty of great action scenes to satisfy fans of disaster movies. And for anybody that's a mountain climbing fan, this is, again, it's actually a fun movie. Although there is one scene that it's kind of hard for me to rub in, is when Chris O'Donnell jumps across a frickin' mountaintop and literally lands on the other side with pickaxes, one in each hand, and manages to catch the mountain wall on the other side. It's a bit, definitely not unrealistic, but then again, when it comes to movies, sometimes unrealism is better. But again, also being real, there are obviously realists out there that want films to be as realistic as possible. But for me, I kind of want to see unrealistic stuff in movies. But overall, it just amps up the entertainment value. The movie was a bit of a profitable hit when it debuted in theaters. It grossed over $200 million against its $75 million budget. And when I said $200 million, I meant that worldwide, not in the States, though. The movie got mostly mixed to negative reviews by critics. I mean, currently it's got like a 30-some% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't remember when I last looked at it, but yeah, it was pretty low. Definitely lower than Cliffhanger or Everest. But again, this is a movie that is mainly all about, the action and the visuals. A little bit of the acting is good, but not all of it. The story, like I said, it tends to fall apart in the film's second act, but still, it's really all about, again, it's really all focusing on the action and visuals. It's really all about focusing on survival and trying to get the other characters safely down the mountain. Like I said, Martin Campbell, who is definitely known for directing some good action films like Goldeneye, which is my personal favorite James Bond movie, Mask of Zorro, which I thought is very well done. So yeah, it's a decent combination right there. So that's about all I can say about the movie. The movie really received not many major accolades, despite getting a BAFTA nomination for its visual effects. And when I say BAFTA, it's like the British version of the Academy Awards. That's really the only big thing it got nominated for. I believe it lost the BAFTA that year for Best Visual Effects. I think The Perfect Storm took that award, if I'm not mistaken. Honestly, on Blu-ray, Vertical Limit actually looks pretty good. Yeah, this is the typical Blu-ray case, the cover that Sony put out for many of their discs back when Blu-ray became a, the hot selling thing. Which, yeah, it's kind of weird looking, but that's what it is. It's pretty neat, though. Take that out there. Yeah, that's pretty much the... But honestly, though, Vertical Limit is actually not a bad-looking film on Blu-ray. It looks really good. Although I wouldn't say it looks as good as Everest. I would say about on par with what Cliffhanger looked like. There are parts of the film that look really good, and there are parts that look, so-so. The film is presented in, let me see oh, here it is. 185x1 widescreen, so it's not the Panavision. And honestly, it looks pretty good for the most part. A lot of detail. There are some parts that look really good, and there are parts that, but still, for a Sony Blu-ray, definitely get your money's worth for this movie, if anybody. I would say out of 5 stars, the The video on the disc would probably get maybe a 4 out of 5. As for the audio, well, it's loud. Loud, loud, loud. It definitely sounds better than it looks, that's for sure. The English PCM 5.1 track, which is, well, PCM and DTS, yeah, I guess they are different things, aren't they? But honestly, the PCM 5.1 track, yeah, this is a loud movie. There's explosions, the mountainside collapsing, avalanches. Oh yeah, this movie is loud. And the dialogue comes out very well too. So this is actually a good movie to share your to show off your speakers. I would say for the audio out of 5 stars. Oh yeah, and of course there's the regular English 5.1 tracks and a French track too. But those are Dolby Digital, they're not DTS. So I would say out of 5 stars, the audio for the PCM track especially, solid 5 out of 5. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and of course, loads of subtitles. English, yeah, French, Chinese, Korean, Portuguese, Spanish, Thai, yeah. As for bonus features, surprisingly, Vertical Limit actually does come with a small batch of material here. Not a lot. It's basically the same stuff that occupied the special edition DVD, which I've never owned, but for people that actually own the DVD, yeah, this is the same batch of extras that came off of there. Audio commentary with Martin Campbell and producer Lloyd Phillips, as they talk about the movie, talk about conceiving the idea and getting it made. As easy as falling off. Basically, there's an HBO special, Surviving the Limit. It's like a 20-odd minute featurette that talks about the movie. And there's a bunch of little mini featurettes that explain how they did many of the scenes in the film, like as easy as falling off a cliff, avalanche, how they probably did the avalanche in the movie, peak performers, the death zone, obviously getting the actors to... or basically emulating, filming, or did they actually film on K2? Sort of like what they did with Everest. Did they actually film on Mount Everest, or did they find locations that look similar to Mount Everest? Who knows? Vertigo magic. So basically, yeah, it's all about how the filming locations, casting the actors, performing the stunts, doing the visuals, because there are stunts in the film that are, death-defying, like kind of thing you really don't want to try at home. Sort of like what you would see in Everest and Cliffhanger. It's not a big selection of features, but what's on there though will be enough to satisfy any fan of the movie. So I would say out of 5 stars, the extras, I'd probably give it maybe a 3 out of 5. It's not a big batch, but like I said, what's there will be enough to satisfy fans. For anybody that's a GoldenEye fan, yeah, Isabella Scorupco, which I believe that's her right there. She was actually in GoldenEye. She was Natalia. She was the Bond. She was the main girl that James Bond ended up with. Cute girl too. Yeah, like I said, this movie actually does have a pretty solid cast. I mean, Chris O'Donnell, Bill Paxton, of course, Robin Tunney, and Scott Glenn, who had done quite a few good movies like Silverado, Backdraft, and Hunt for Red October. He had been in a lot of stuff. Robin Tunney, who had just come off of doing Supernova, which I'll probably get to at one point. Of course, a lot of 90s fans will recognize her from The Craft, especially. Of course, Chris O'Donnell is probably best known as Dick Grayson, Robin from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, the 2 Batman movies that not a lot of people liked. And like I said, I'm amazed he actually found some work after Batman and Robin. Not a lot of work, but he did find some work, so I'll give him that. Yeah, Bill Paxton, of course, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a shame he's passed on, so I think Scott Glenn is still around. He just did a disaster film a couple years ago. He did Greenland. If you haven't seen Greenland, definitely check that one out. Great movie. So, as for the movie itself, out of 5 stars, I would probably have to give Vertical Limit probably maybe a 3 out of 5. Doesn't mean I hate the movie. I still find it an enjoyable film to watch, but it, like I said, it's like basically a sister film compared to Cliffhanger. It really is. And while Vertical, like I said, Everest, as I said, that film did not focus really on, it was all about survival, and it focused more on the emotional punch instead of just being an action thrill ride like Cliffhanger and Vertical Limit are. Because while Cliffhanger, it actually had a decent idea to it. since it involved mountain climbing and eventually involving terrorists. Vertical Limit, on the other hand, is really all about action and survival. And the action scenes are really good. Some of them are very good, and some of them are just, nail biting. But overall, yeah, like I said, it's still an entertaining film. And I would say, yeah, give it a try. You never know. Like I said, it is entertaining. A lot of good scenes in it. Some of the acting is not terrible. The story, like I said, works up to a certain point, but then it kind of gets a bit iffy. But overall, yeah, it's one movie you just want to sit down and enjoy it for what it is. If you're looking for a film with some nail-biting suspense and, beautiful cinematography, which it does have, so... And, of course, the Blu-ray is a pretty solid disc. The video is really good. The audio is absolutely superb. And a decent number of extras to have a look at. So, overall, this is actually a pretty decent release of the film. The Blu-ray should be pretty cheap to find. So, yeah, give it a try if you're into it. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I will continue to do more videos in the days to come. So, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. So... Until then, take care and be safe.